This
Hello, this is Shikha Tiwari, and welcome to another episode at You Reinvent. There was a time when working women came with a bag of guilt and no me time. Over time, things have changed with more and more women wanting to have it all. While the desire is there, we fall short to attain that desirable state because of a lack of principles, some practices, some tips, and years of conditioning to put us last. If you are one who's juggling numerous tasks both at home and work and feel burnt out, frustrated, overwhelmed, and maybe at the brink of crying for every drop of a hat, then this episode is for you. My guest today is Anuradha Pradhyumnan. After successfully straddling both the corporate world and entrepreneurship for about 3 decades, Anu now wears several hats, those of a leadership coach, an entrepreneur, a learning strategist, a mentor, and a trainer. She believes in being a persistent learner and so continues to learn from every challenge and experience in the corporate world and from life in general. As a certified and experienced coach, today she will be coaching and guiding us with some principles and practices and her own life experiences to help us live a more balanced life. So, thank you so much for joining us, Anu, and welcome. I'm really happy and honored to have you here today with us.
Thank you, Shika. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And I would like to take this opportunity, of all the, wonderful things you are doing
Oh,
with
thank
your
you.
reinvent.
Yes.
And yeah, with very valid and current topics and situations that you are bringing to the discussions. So yeah, I admire you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like, like we were discussing earlier, that, so much of, um women's liberation, women's equality has been talked about, and, there are a lot of
True.
principles and laws and even best practices even in the corporate. I mean, in fact, people are very how do I put it, very aggressively talking about equal pay and so on and so forth, but I still feel that that is like the tip of the iceberg. A lot of work needs to happen within us to
Absolutely.
actually demand the space that we need. And I was taught by someone very early in my life that अपना हक तो छीनना पड़ता है, कोई देता नहीं है. So, so I think we need to kind of ask for a space, or rather create, not ask. There is space for everyone. We just need to create one for ourselves. So,
Exactly my
from
thoughts.
that topic, I want my first point for discussion is that women have been so conditioned to feel guilty about taking out me time. The moment you tell someone like me or my mom that, hey, why don't you do this for yourself, immediately they have this red flag in their head, selfish, you know and of course perspectives are changing now, but I still feel there is a long way women need to go. So what are your thoughts, what are your observations over the last 3 decades that you've worked in the industry? What would you say?
Yeah, Shika. No, that question, yeah, brings to my mind a few experiences or
Hmm.
specific, days in my
Right. Right.
life in those 3 decades. Yeah. So, as you know, as I've shared with you, recently I have slowed down. I took
Hmm.
a sabbatical,
Right.
but to do what? So you also know I'm an entrepreneur. I have
Right.
been for the last several years. We have done some very good work together.
Right.
So when I got into it, it was exciting times.
Hmm.
I was coming out of the corporate world, and while it was not a very conscious, well thought out decision and taken training for it, nevertheless, I was very confident that I could pull it off,
Hmm.
and I started on that journey. And it was been a roller coaster ride for about 8 or 9 years.
Hmm.
In extremely busy days at work, and just excitement and the responsibility that came
Right.
with it, keeping my team members, well occupied,
Right.
taking care of them. Of course, answerable to our clients and the quality consciousness that is
Right.
very innate in me. All that, was exciting,
Right.
but it was very demanding
Correct.
and unexpectedly demanding. So here I was, working with people across time zones and clients across time zones and putting in 12, 14 hours a day regularly. I mean, I'm not sure I had a weekend per se to call it a weekend.
I know what you're saying.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exciting times, but somewhere I realized that in this entrepreneurial journey, somewhere there's some basic core principles with which I may have operated, unconsciously in my earlier corporate days.
Hmm.
Somewhere I was maybe losing track of that.
Hmm.
And when that hit me,
Hmm.
was when I went on a medical checkup and my doctor very candidly told me, okay,
Hmm.
Anuradha, you seem to be doing all that needs to be done technically for being fit, but this is their report. Okay. And so you need to take a look at it.
Yeah.
What is it that you can change?
Correct.
Or
Correct.
so when I came back home that day from that clinic visit and was discussing it with my family, my husband, I realized that not only my health that was going downhill,
Hmm.
a lot of my relationships were going downhill too. I
Correct.
had suddenly, or not really suddenly, almost over a few years, stopped making those social overtures that I was known for. You know,
Hmm.
my social life was almost had come to a non-existent level, and I'm sure many will relate to that
Right. Yeah.
level
Absolutely.
when we become so engrossed in our
Work.
career
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
work and all that. So when that realization happened,
Hmm.
I said, okay, is this me? I mean,
Hmm.
is this how I like to live?
Hmm.
Then I realized the answer is no. But to do something
Right.
about it, I had
Yeah.
to act.
Right.
And that's what made me decide, okay, I need time for myself
Hmm.
to
Hmm. Hmm.
take a look, relook at what I want to do, what am I, where am I headed, and
Hmm.
what do I want to make for my future.
Right.
So I decided to take a sabbatical, but even that was an effort because a lot of
Correct.
things had to be scaled
Yeah.
down, a lot of people had to be taken care of, a
Right.
lot of clients had to be, sort of let go
Right. Right.
diplomatically, softly.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I took that time
You
off
had to take
about,
it for yourself, actually.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was vital that I do that at that time
Yeah.
and, sort of recenter myself. So I took that sabbatical
Right.
and did a lot of thinking, questioning, self
Hmm.
questioning. I put down, okay, what are the principles with which I have operated earlier? I would like
Mm-hmm.
to think that my corporate career, except for certain instances, certain times, I had a pretty balanced,
Right.
life,
Mm-hmm.
personal versus professional. I'm not sure about the me time, Shika, but yes, I. So because I thought maybe unconsciously, subconsciously, I was operating from that time frame, or
Mm.
rather from the principle that I should take on only as much stress as I am capable of handling.
Correct. Yes.
Maybe I did it fairly well during my corporate days because I had a small family. So I was operating from a certain principle, if I want to call you it, family being my topmost
Your focus.
priority at
Yes.
that
Yeah.
time, focus at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went on this sabbatical, about a year ago, about
Mm-hmm.
early 2019, I think it was, and when, totally sort of down physically,
Mm.
with my body screaming, yeah, please stop, take care of me, kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
situation. And I realized that somewhere I had lost track of, that principles with which I maybe like to operate. So
Right.
now it was coming to be a conscious, uh, real look at what are my principles.
Right.
And
Right.
that's when I realized they change over a period of time, Shika.
Right.
And I realized that I hadn't observed that change. I was experiencing and sort of an emptiness syndrome. My children girls had become independent, moved
Yeah.
away, and yeah, and I was just, I think, drowning myself in work,
Work just
and it
kind of,
was exciting work. Yeah, it
right.
was
I know.
exciting.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, but somewhere I had let certain things go. So I realized that during those 6 to 8 months of my sabbatical, that there are questions, hard questions I have to ask myself. Okay, so
Right.
now what are you working for? What
Mm.
are the principles that you're operating from? What
Mm-hmm.
values? Now, okay, what is priority for
Mm-hmm.
you now, today? So that's when I realized that that relook is very important. And to
Right.
be able to consciously do that, we need to step back,
Step back. The
periodically,
madness, So,
and yes, and then take a look again at where you are now,
right.
what has changed,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of move your needle to where it needs to be, and proceed with your life. And certain things that emerged there was that, okay, you, given your age and health conditions,
Right.
you cannot work 14 hours a day anymore.
Right.
So
Right.
I sort of said, the first promise I made to myself in the presence of my family is that, okay, there is only X amount of work I'm going to take on, which is again aligning to the my
To
core
your
principle that I
core
take
principles.
on only as much stress as you can capably handle.
I think that's the most
Okay?
important piece. Yes.
Yeah. So having done that, I decided that maybe that industry, that the work that I was doing, that needs to change too.
Change. Yeah.
And yeah, so that brought me into this world of coaching. And
Right.
I realized, I love being with people, and
Right.
making
Uh-huh.
a learning from others, making a difference to them
Correct.
from whatever I can do for them. So from that aspect, went into coaching and realized now I can decide how much I want to
How
do,
much you
how
want to take
busy I
on?
want to be.
Right.
Yeah, so that realignment was what helped me, Shika.
Right. And uh, I would kind of, just for our viewers, kind of make that a very interesting parallel that you mentioned that you liked to, or you like to help people and add value to their lives. The only difference I would say was that initially or in your early years, you were doing it by creating learning interventions which help them. Today you're doing it by helping them guide uh, through their path, or helping them relook at their messes, and kind of walk them through. So you're, like you said, your core principle remains the same of helping people or helping them improve their own lives, but how you're doing it is changing because of your own life situation and what you want to do, having spent 30 years already doing certain kind of thing. Another point which you mentioned, which came up very beautifully, was you said that you asked yourself, is that how I want to live my life? And the answer was no. Uh, Talk a little bit about that, because I'm sure that hit you like, a million stones on your head.
Yeah,
What was that like?
yeah, yeah. Because being stressed, of course, impacts one personally. The health, maybe the mental makeup. But again, I I'm a very social person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not a very, maybe not a very I would say gregarious person,
Mm-hmm.
but love
You
being
like
close to. I love being
connections,
close to
yes.
people. I like connections, yes. Be
Mm-hmm.
it at work, social functions which are important to people. So my presence, maybe tells them that yeah, they are important to me, and making those connects is very important. So when
Hmm.
I realized I'm missing out of so many things, yes, as I don't, I always want to acknowledge that my work was exciting.
Hmm.
Thank you for acknowledging that, that I helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
The only sort of side of me that I want to live with. So I realized in life, work is only one aspect of it.
Correct. Yes.
So the other dimensions which were getting lost, missed, is
Hmm.
something I wanted back, and I could do that only if I relook at the balance. The
Correct.
earlier question you asked,
Yes.
Shikha, about balancing. So
Hmm.
what is balance? What does the balance mean to me? So that is what emerged when I actually gave some thought to it. I have to balance things in tune with what balance means to you. So I just had to put down, what it means to me,
Right.
relook at them again and again, fine tune it, and then sort of arrive at this decision that, okay, I need to scale down on some aspects of my life and
Hmm.
scale up certain
Fine.
things which had got buried in the, really busy times.
So,
Yeah.
is there a questionnaire, or was it more instinctive the way you went about, asking those questions, or?
But what I did, Shikha, was I created my own answers, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
So as I think, from where do I want to operate, I
Mm-hmm.
realized, let me put my values down, let me
Hmm.
put my principles down,
Okay.
or I would like to just call it a priority list.
Interesting.
There's so many things that demand our time, so many things we need to do, so many things we want to do, and so many things we have to do. So, some so values emerge as a list of things. My
Correct. Correct.
priority list, as I
Mm-hmm.
would call it. So I just put down a few,
Mm-hmm.
and there is something called a value map system.
I see.
Basically, it's not, we just put down our we use. I just answer the question, what's important to you, or what are all the things that are important to
That
you.
important to
And
you.
I put,
Okay.
yeah, maybe I get a list of maybe 7 or 8 things which are important to me, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be at a very high level. Okay, family is one,
Hmm.
being busy is another, work is another, social life is another, and maybe some travel is another, and so on. So there are a certain set of priorities, I put down,
Hmm.
and as I said, only being stress free, being peaceful. At the end of every day, I need to have that peace of mind. That, okay,
Right.
I did what I could do
What I
today,
could do.
and
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy and I'm okay. With what I did,
Mm-hmm.
and that level is of peace is needed. Even just to fall asleep.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So I just made that list and I decided, okay, now I need to let me start prioritizing here.
Hmm.
Earlier, as I mentioned to you, family was top of that list.
Correct.
But now I realize that's changing. Yes, family is still there. As I'm a mother, I'm a wife,
Correct. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a daughter-in-law, I'm a daughter, and I have siblings, my brothers and sisters. So
Mm-hmm.
I have all of that in my life. Yes, my family is there,
Mm-hmm.
but with that intense responsibility for a young family, uh, that has sort of scaled down now.
Right.
So I could scale up something else,
Right.
and that's when I think I did scale up my work, but the nature of the work sort of sucked me in,
Correct.
into
Correct.
it,
Correct.
that very
Yeah.
busy, where I didn't know when morning came and when night happened, kind of routine. Got
Hmm.
into that. So
Right.
from that list, now what emerged was,
Hmm.
where I am today, I need to be peaceful more than anything
More than
else.
anything. Right.
So that emerged as my top priority from all those set questions that I
Right.
asked
Right.
myself, and
Right.
that list. Once I realized that, okay, because in what would have given me peace,
Hmm.
taking care of my health. I'm sure,
Right.
my readings, showing that my report showing that all is well with me.
All is well.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, yes, I'm able to now make time whenever needed to, attend socially, whatever events are happening around me,
Hmm.
or even just having, conversations more frequently with my friends, with my
I know.
siblings,
I know. I know.
you know. Yeah. So all those things which mean a lot to me, and
Right.
so that was the path towards being at peace. So I realized that's what is important to me. So which means I had to scale down something which was
Hmm.
obviously work. Yes,
Correct.
career is very important to me. That's gives me a high. Being
Correct.
busy,
I know. Yeah.
involved in the corporate world, it
Hmm.
really sort of makes me. It's part of that piece,
Yeah. It just adds that spark to
But
you, who you are.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, absolutely, and I need it,
Yeah.
but it can't be all consuming. That's the realization that happened from that list. Everything still was the same, but the order had changed.
Order had changed. Right.
So yeah, so that realization was all that I needed to take
Right.
action from there, saying that, okay, this is what I'm going to do as far as my work is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
and this these are other things I can do. And yet, came back from that. I have sort of been able to do all that, and I am now focusing on some newer aspects of
Right.
what I could do. Continue
Great.
with my training, but maybe new
Yeah.
areas and so on. Yeah, newer things.
Right. So I think two things came out very prominently. One was that you said that, you kind of literally made a laundry list of everything that was important for you, and then relooked what goes up and what comes down, because, your children had grown up, they'd probably moved out and, busy in their own lives. And thanks
Yeah,
to the wonderful parenting, they were independent. I always feel like,
thanks,
and
Shika.
I dread that moment myself. My child is just 5, but I dread when she will not need me, you know. But I think and I know I'm intellectualizing it right now, but there is, one should be able to take it in pride that, oh, my children don't need me anymore. They're independent. Versus having a child who's kind of, at 40 and still, trying to seek something from you. So I think that has to be taken in from the perspective of a job well done, because your children are probably at a point that they can take care of you now. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
know it makes you feel empty, but I think we have to consciously re-engineer that conversation in our heads that, okay, I did a great job, they're doing well, let me now figure out what I need to do for myself, or
exactly.
whatever else is needed. So I think
Right.
that came out very significantly, that you relooked at your priorities, and there came a time where you could move yourself up, your health up, your peace up, and the rest of the things a couple of notches down. So
Yes.
from your experience, and it's easier said than done, and it, I know it, we've seen it around ourselves, what would you say, some 3 4 5, very practical steps that women should take to kind of live the life that they want to.
Yeah, Shika. So one of the most, I think the basic identification we need to do is what balance means to me.
Hmm.
To each of us, it's different.
It's different, yes.
Me, you know, some balance meant something.
Correct.
Maybe giving as much time to family as to work,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the social life that I was
Hmm.
so much a part of and love being a part of. So what balance means to me, I
Hmm.
need to define, and from that emerges that priority list.
Mm-hmm.
So identifying that, and I'm sure a follow-up question would be, so how does one do that? Just just doing
Correct.
that list, making that list helps you.
Helps you.
What is important to me,
Correct,
or
correct.
what are all the things that are important to me,
Mm-hmm.
and in what order are they important to me.
Hmm.
So if I come out with that list, then
That will.
you're able to set boundaries around each of the areas that
Correct.
emerge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and it's very different for each of us.
Correct,
And
correct.
so identifying that would be, I think, the first and foremost step
Step.
towards,
Right, right, right.
yeah, the work, the balance that we are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I would like to mention here is, that I have just called it out as a step, but that is the self-reflection part. You need to be able to observe yourself. We are
Right.
constantly, as you mentioned early on in our
Mm-hmm.
conversation, we are constantly sort of observing other people. We have opinions, often even
Oh,
judgments about everything around us, everybody around us, but do we take that close look at ourselves?
ourselves, yes.
Yeah, that observing ourselves, that is very essential, even if I have to come out with this list of priorities. What is
Absolutely.
it
Bang
that
on.
I'm doing? I need to constantly be observant
Mm-hmm.
of myself.
Hmm.
That will help me. You were mentioning me time also. Someplace,
Correct.
sometime in our conversation, and that is again something I'll know. So for me, Shika, me time is, I would rather call it maybe downtime, times
Correct.
when I maybe
Yeah.
not doing things for which I'm responsible for.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it could be I'm doing it all by myself. As you mentioned, it could even be, I'm happy in a party. I'm
Correct.
hosting
Yeah.
a party,
Whatever.
and
Yeah.
just spending half a day on, or spending a day just,
Mhm.
managing the menu and the guest list and everything. So it could be anything that I'm doing from which nothing but pure joy,
Mm.
comes to me. So that would be the me time or the downtime that I envisage.
Mhm.
And even that, that takes me to the, maybe another thing that we could do very clearly is work with plans and schedules.
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
I'm sure many of us do create to-do lists.
Right.
Sometimes some of us, at least in the initial years, I would do it only for my work,
Mhm.
in the corporate world,
Mm.
because I was, I suppose, more conscious about, not wasting anybody's time,
Right.
or conscious about the quality of work that was expected from me, and
Mm.
all that, or productivity, all the things that a corporate expects. So I
Mhm.
was doing this very stringently. I would make a to-do list, every day, and then, I re-look at it at the end of the day before, winding up and,
Mm.
getting back. So, but then I realized carrying that planning and scheduling even to your personal life
Right.
helps a lot in
Absolutely.
getting to that balance.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, and again, planning and scheduling, not just today's work, but why not for a longer period of time?
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
so my short to-do lists today
Mm.
are a weekly list
Mm.
from which, so if you have a very long to-do list, obviously you're going to be disappointed at the end of the day,
Right.
maybe
Right.
because
Right.
you didn't get through several items.
Yes.
So make the longer list as an overall, things to do, achieve in the end of
Mhm.
a week or, a month.
Mhm.
And then each day make the list that is most priority,
Right.
top
Right.
priority for today.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so there are certain methodologies there to, available on, on the internet, how
Mhm.
you can
Correct.
come
Yeah.
up with
Yeah.
today's list based on what's urgent, what's important, for
Mhm.
today.
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so planning and scheduling, and taking it one notch further, uh, planning and scheduling of, for your next year, or maybe for a few years,
Hmm. Hmm.
as longer term goals,
Hmm.
and then keep looking at them, once in a quarter or whatever period suits you,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then come down with your daily, monthly, weekly, daily schedules.
Hmm.
As you said, it's easier said than done, but if
Right.
we do that, then
Yeah.
we are
Life is
constantly
sorted. Yeah.
observing ourselves,
Mm.
and constantly, we have a vision, but
Mm.
we are constantly observing, what we are achieving, what we are doing, what is
Correct. Yeah.
changing, and then making those, changes
Right.
as and when required. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that is one of the things that I would like to suggest.
Mm-hmm.
These two are sort of at a broader level, but at an almost everyday level,
Mm-hmm.
things like delegation, art of delegation,
Oh,
in the corporate world. Yeah,
like,
we do it.
yeah, women suck at that part, Like, I'm going
Yeah,
to do it, I'm going to do everything.
yes. We so love to take on everything.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
want that pat on our backs, right? We like to pat ourselves on the
yeah,
back.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
I get it.
absolutely.
All that and more. True. So that delegation, it didn't come easily to me.
I know.
So given the way I like to function, that has been a massive feedback I used to receive on that. But that's really needed. It builds it, apart from making your life easier, it helps to build that trust, and
Correct.
in
Absolutely.
relationships, and
Right.
and and again, here, not just at work, we do it there. We've been trained to do that, and we
Mm-hmm.
do it there, and we are watched for, we are doing that well, etc. But imagine, Shika, if we are able to do that for our
At home,
homes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it can be done. I mean, from
Yeah, yeah,
experience, I would
agree
like to share that
100%.
it can be done. It's a slow, subtle, bringing up the family kind of situation where all of us bring each other up
Right.
to, being there
I
for each other, participating being the bottom word.
fact that brings me to a very interesting another belief of ours, that we as women maybe always feel, and thanks to Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella and Rapunzel, that a Prince Charming is coming. And by Prince Charming, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean a guy, but somebody outside of us is going to come and fix us. What are your thoughts there? What have you seen in your...
Shika, thanks for asking that. In fact, it has brought a very humorous situation to my mind,
Uh-huh.
which my daughter, I have two granddaughters, right?
Uh-huh.
One is 5 years old and another one is 10 years old. And one very humorous situation. So now they are doing remote school thanks to the
Mm.
current situation.
Correct, correct, correct.
Yeah. So the 5-year-old refuses to sit in front of the computer, the
Yeah.
Chromebook for her classes.
Correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct. Same.
So her dad, I think her dad was telling her, apparently told her, all nice princesses should sit and listen to what the teacher is telling you and do what the teacher is telling you. It's only for a short time, and
Mm.
then you can do what you want. You're
Mm.
playing or you're painting or whatever.
Mm.
So what she says, Snow White or Cinderella. Snow White is always sleeping, okay, the princess. Cinderella is only all the time washing dishes. And Rapunzel is only combing her hair. I don't
I
want to
love
be a
this girl.
princess.
I love this girl.
So we, as soon as my daughter told us this, we just recall it and have a hearty laugh every time we think of.
I know.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I this
Sorry.
one, she is very fond of dressing up, like I'm a princess. In my head,
Mm,
uh, I am very conscious of the fact that princess doesn't mean that somebody is going to come and do it for you. You're a princess, fair
yeah.
enough. You wear your crown, I don't mind, but still do your own dishes, clean your own bed, and take care
Yeah.
of your own happiness. So that is something you still have
The
to do
princess
your
is
own,
there.
yeah, on your
Uh,
own. So great. So I think with
true.
that, that was, I mean, and please tell your daughter that, she has a genius at hand, and I love her.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
And these
They
kids are
are
smart,
so, yeah,
it's
very
us and
smart.
maybe, a couple of women younger to me who are still probably struggling in this mindset. And I so feel that this is something we don't need to have to do it for our children so much, but for ourselves. So with that,
Yeah.
we're coming towards the end of our conversation, and anything else that you would like to add of as to how you've shared, making a plan, and making a list of priorities, and even having daily schedules, uh, and extending them towards to a weekly or a slightly more longish plan. But as a closing thought, would you like to say something to our viewers of how they should, what is your mantra for a happy and fulfilling life,
Yeah, Shikha. Basically, I would like to say, be the leading lady or even the leading man of your own drama.
right? Oh
You
yes.
know, I, if you are that, then you will be responsible for yourself, because as you rightly mentioned, you are taking on so many other responsibilities for so many other people.
Correct.
This way you will ensure you are taking that responsibility for yourself too. And when you do that, everything else that we discussed today,
Falls
it
into
would
place.
automatically be aligned.
Right,
You
right,
have your principles in sight,
right.
and you are constantly sort of observing yourself, periodically stepping back and saying, okay, am I aligned to the
Hmm.
principles with which I like to operate? And then sort of, it makes it you know achieving that balance, you know, fairly doable. you know
Doable, yeah. Doing it. You have to constantly reinvent. Look at where I am. Look at where, like you mentioned earlier, that
Absolutely.
and I that resonates with me so much that is that the kind of life I want to live? And the answer was no. That was huge, you know. And the fact,
I
it takes a
love
lot of
that name,
courage to
reinvent.
ask that question and face the answer. A lot of us know the
Right.
answer, but we're not ready to face and do something about it. So
Absolutely. And until we face it, we can't act, beyond that to
correct,
make the
correct, yes,
change. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so
Excellent.
much for joining me, Anu, today, and this was a real pleasure. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Shika. It is lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.